So how did you navigate through the just normal fear or resistance that arises when you started having these authentic and transparent conversations?
I'm wondering I don't know how much fear played a factor. I think the fear of the alternative of continuing to betray myself, because that is a word that I do use often, is to some degree at every point in my life prior to the last 3 years, I betrayed myself to a certain degree. And that betrayal was definitely not allowing me to thrive in my life experience. Sure, I had a pretty good life, but you know, the thriving, the waking up every day, just being happy to be alive was not there, you know. And so the alternative, you know, to not being transparent and not being truthful means that I would continue to live that way, and I didn't want to live that way anymore. So I don't know that fear was a factor. I think I just continue to take shots with people. Yeah, I'm a good Canadian kid that played a lot of hockey growing up, and you can't score goals without taking shots. So you take shots and see how they go. And some go in and some don't. And I think that's the best way to say it.
Did you have to adapt your communication style at all?
Of course you know that.
No, I'm just setting you up for the shot.
I know, it's beautiful. Thank you. No, you are absolutely correct, and I think that's you've helped me appreciate that. Again, I think I'm just engaging in life, and you've mentioned a few times that, well, I can tell how you're changing. You know, I can tell how you express yourself, and a lot. Yes, huge. It's giving me goosebumps to talk to you about that right now. So for sure. And the other thing that comes to mind is the throat chakra, right? And yeah, personal self-expression was definitely not part of my life. Not a lot of use of I language, even though I know what it is. And even then I could pretend to use I language because I can force that and make it work, but not really truly own it in my being. I'm using I language because that's what I'm supposed to do, not because I'm really owning it, right? So yeah, for sure. And then I guess being much more aware of how I'm received, or how that communication or that expression is received, and adjusting accordingly. You know, a lot of times, I think what I have to say is brilliant and insightful, and you know, I can't wait to share it, but I can now read in the conversation that there's no opening, and if I do, it's just gonna force it. Like I'm just forcing my will onto this situation, and that's really not acceptable. Like on so many levels, right? It's just not acceptable to me inside. So it's almost like I have fun with that now too. It's like, oh, I have this brilliant point to add, but clearly no one wants to hear it. Okay.
You can always call me.
Right. And you know, I do. I'll text you from time to time and blast you with a bunch of new insights and ideas.
Yeah, and I love it.
So yeah, definitely. It's an attitude about the communication, right? Like there's mechanics around it that anybody can do and mimic, but there's definitely an attitude change about how I express and navigate. Yeah.
And a lot of that is conscious awareness of self, which does again go into consciousness.
Right.
It's an exploration of consciousness and a willingness to be transparent with ourselves, which we always think about transparency as an external move, but it's not. Half the time, the hardest person to be transparent with is yourself.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah, and I just even want to add to that now. The one thing that helped with that too is a lot more journaling, a lot more practical, meaningful journaling. So instead of having that challenging conversation with the other, whoever that other may be, it was a journal entry, and that's where that conversation has, and that's where those insights come. And that's when I got to know myself a lot better, way better. And, things that I had been taught was kind of unacceptable to be that way. Like I still feel like as I grew up, my parents were great, did the best they could, but I still feel like I had to earn a lot of love. So I had to, be a certain way. And so as I'm learning more about myself, it's like, you know what? No, I actually am like that. I'm, I did the dishes and cleaned up growing up so that I could get the attaboys, not because I wanted to, and now I still do it because I want to, but there's just those subtle changes that I got to better own exactly who I am,
Yeah. And journaling for me, it just gives me a chance to write it out before I speak it out, so I can get my thoughts clear too, or even how I feel, because sometimes it all just comes so fast and at once.
Yeah.
It just is like, whoa, what is this human thing? Where did it all come from?
And you would mention that early on, or you'd have an experience and it'd be like, hey, what do you think of that? And you'd be like, well, I need some time to process. And I'd be like, what? Who, now I get it. Yes. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 days later before you understand why that experience was meaningful to you.
Yeah. And that's okay, because we have been so programmed in many ways to instantly react or even respond. And, I personally, from this aspect of my consciousness, I'm unable to do that.
Right.
And that's where I'm always transparent. It's like, you got to give me a little bit of time with it. I don't move that quickly. If you want an authentic response from me, allow me to process it.
Right.
And so I thank you very much I know it was weird in the beginning and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You allowed it.
Yeah. Well, I trusted you that you knew you, right? And even probably at that early stage, I wanted to honor the fact that you knew you, and I would have to say it's very rare that you meet people that know who they are, and maybe that's part of that expression again, because now you're speaking from your own truth, that when you're engaging with others, they know right away. Like, so I know you don't need to explain, you don't need anything. You just needed to say, hey, I need time to process. Oh, okay. That makes sense. That sort of, I mean, I don't know what you mean, but I know you need support for that.
Yeah.
That's it.